Hey there, congratulations. You've probably clicked on this video because you are looking to buy a home in 2022, and I want to commend you for taking this step. My goal in the next 15 minutes or so is to take you through my 12-step process to buying you a home. So stick with me on the other side of this intro to find out more. Hey everybody, it's Rob Marsiglio here from the Robert Marsiglio Realty Group, serving Durham region as well as Toronto and York region. And like I said, today I'm excited to take you through my 12-step process to secure you a home in 2022. So each realtor may do things a little bit differently. I believe these are the kind of 12 steps you need to be hitting on your way to homeownership this year. And I'm excited to get into these things with you. So let's get started. So step one of this process actually has nothing to do with your real estate professional. And when I say nothing to do with it, I mean they're not going to be the one walking you through this step. Hopefully they have some connections though to put you in touch with a mortgage professional. Before we even start talking about a dream list or anything like that, we want to know based on your income, your debt, the assets that you hold, how much home you can afford going forward. So a mortgage professional is going to be able to take these numbers, crunch them, and give you kind of a range. You know, for a condo, here's what we can be looking at for freehold properties within the city of Toronto. Here's what we're looking at, and outside of the city of Toronto, here's what you'd be looking at in terms of affordability. So they'll factor all those things in, your closing costs, and really give you a solid budget and a solid pre-approval so that you know going forward exactly how much home you can afford. Step two, this is the buyer consultation, and you can even kind of maybe back this up to, you know, step 2A and 2B. So this will be interviewing realtors. I always suggest to people, just like any service you get, talk to a few different people, see who you vibe with, see whose systems you like the most. And in this interview, this is the time when I'm being interviewed by a buyer, I take them through the buyer consultation process. I want to know your needs, your why for moving, and then, you know, start developing that criteria based on, you know, where you want to be, what you want to be in, the timeline you want to be in that new house, and then again, getting back to that budget, exactly how much home you can afford. So this is kind of, you know, the interview and the buyer consultation would be step 2. Step 3, so now you have a professional that you've chosen to work with, and this is kind of the fun part. This is when we start building a search criteria based on the things that are important to you as a buyer. So again, we've got an area kind of hopefully pinpointed on, maybe a couple areas we're keeping our eyes on. Maybe we start general and work our way more specifically throughout the search. But you know, we know it's going to be a 2-bedroom condo you want to look at in Willowdale, for example, or a 3-bedroom semi-detached home out in Whitby, Ontario. Once we have kind of this framework, we'll set you up on a search. We'll tap into our database to see if there's any listings that we may have coming up that are a good fit for you, or reach out to other professionals in the industry to say, hey, what's coming up? Office meetings is when we share things like this. So, and then we can actually start getting out there to view these properties, the actual fun part. This is, you know, step 3, we're already getting into the fun part of going to look at homes. I think one thing that's changed in the last couple of years of home viewing with COVID, and I know we are hopefully starting to come out of this, but maybe 2022 is still a year where we want to do as much scouring online to make sure it's a good fit as possible before going to see the property in person. And again, another great value proposition is having a realtor who will go preview properties on your behalf, you know, at times when you are working during the day to kind of eliminate properties once we have a good idea of what you're looking for. We could say, you know what, I don't think Bob would like this, or I don't think Sue would like this about this house. We'll kind of do that elimination work up front, so we're only going to see properties that are going to be of a good interest to you when the time comes. Okay, so we found the home you love. Now it's time to create an offer, submit it, and negotiate on your behalf. So this is where a bit of research comes into play again. We kind of look at, you know, what is on the market that's been sitting there for a while. Maybe it gives us an indication as to if a listing may be overpriced. What has sold recently to give us a good idea of market value, and then we compare those homes to the one that you want to do a look at. So it's actually very similar to the listing presentation process, where we are trying to price that home, find out what the market value is before preparing an offer. Now in that offer, we'll put our purchase price down, the preferred closing date, how much of a deposit you want to give to the sellers, kind of a deposit in trust to kind of show, you know, I'm serious about making this home purchase. We'll also put in things like conditions. So if we want to make sure it's conditional on financing, to make sure that that mortgage pre-approval is going to come through. Make it conditional on an inspection if we want to get in there and check things out. With condos, we want to make it conditional on status certificate review, making sure the condo documents are all good. So we'll craft this offer, put it in, and then have a bit of negotiation back and forth with the other side to come to terms that, again, are agreeable to both sides, but hopefully more agreeable to you, the buyer. Okay, step 5. This is, I always say if you have a little bottle of champagne, pop that now, because you did get your offer accepted, but we're still in the conditional period. So there's still some due diligence that has to be done, but the house is yours conditionally, and the first condition is always the dropping off of the deposit. So sometimes with an offer, you'll actually give the deposit with the offer to a seller, but in other times, you have 24 hours from the time your offer is accepted to hand a deposit check. So that's a certified check, a bank draft, it could be a wire transfer to the listing brokerage's trust account. So that's kind of the first hurdle you have to clear. We always make sure we have that deposit ready to go before going to look at properties so that when the perfect place does come up, here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. We're all ready to go. We're serious about this. Here's the first chunk of change for your home. Now, step 6, that's the second part of the conditional period, and that's doing your due diligence. So like I said, if we had a condition on financing, we want to make sure we get all the deal paperwork to your mortgage professional to kind of dot the I's, cross the T's, maybe get an appraisal done right away to make sure that, everything looks good from a financing perspective. Same thing with the home inspection. If it's an older home or there's some red flags you've seen and you want to have that home inspection done as a peace of mind, again, I always suggest let's do this for peace of mind, but we'll have, whether it's 5 business days to get an inspector in there to check the home out and make sure everything's to your liking. During this conditional period, we'll also talk to some insurers to make sure your home can be insured. And so we'll send them the listing itself. If they ask for inspection reports, things along these lines, we'll provide all that info to them to make sure the home is in fact insurable. And the way these conditions are worded is that they are for the buyer's benefit, and it's kind of the buyer's sole and absolute discretion as to whether or not they want to fulfill the condition, which is going to come in step 7. So totally up to you. You have to be happy with everything. If there's something you're not happy about, you kind of have that safety net to back out of the deal within the conditional period. As a note, I might have oversimplified that just a little bit. There are certain instances where, if you notice something, a paint color on an inspection you didn't realize in the first place, that's something that's going to be really hard to back out of. You do need to have a good reason. I just wanted to clarify that to not oversimplify the point. Okay, so now we get to step 7, and that's the firming up phase or the backing out phase, whatever happens here. So again, if we are firming up, what that means is we're going to sign some paperwork to say, hey, we're happy with our findings from our conditional period. We want to go ahead with this transaction. So that is the point in time when, again, you have a slightly bigger bottle of champagne. Let's pop it at this point because you are locked into this deal. Scary, take a deep breath. There are some serious penalties for backing out at this point as a buyer, but very exciting. You've just acquired your dream home. It's wicked. Let's say there's something you're not very happy about in the findings. You then have 2 options. You can either try to get a mutual release signed, which is both parties, the buyer and the seller, come to the table and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's something we found, we couldn't secure the financing that we wanted, or there's something in the inspection report that we just can't get over, or there's something with the status certificate from the condo building that we're not happy with. We want to back out of this deal. You're going to have to sign a mutual release as long as both parties agree to it to get that deposit back, and then we kind of go back to step 3, viewing homes, and start that process again. The other option is you try to renegotiate a little bit based on your findings. So if it's a home you really love, you just can't wrap your head around this big price tag on a major fix that needs to be done. Maybe we can go back to the seller and try and negotiate the purchase price down a little bit. And again, this is a big part of a realtor's value proposition is building that relationship with the other side so that if this is necessary, there's a better chance to kind of get you that home secured at a lower price, assuming there's something that didn't go right in the conditional period. One more disclaimer for you. Steps 5 and 6. So, step 5, the deposit check, that's definitely got to happen. We've got to make sure the deposit gets there. Step 6, though, that can sometimes happen prior to actually putting the offer in. So in a very hot market, when everything is selling firm, that's the term, there are no conditions and offers, we want to get as much of this due diligence done ahead of time. So that's the importance of getting a very strong pre-approval. If your pre-approval is based on you putting some numbers in on a website and them spitting something back at you, run. You want to kind of feel like, this mortgage professional is being nosy, asking you all sorts of questions, because that's a very solid pre-approval they're giving you that you can be comfortable with. Same thing with a home inspection. There is an option to get an inspection done prior to putting an offer in a lot of times. It'll show sellers how serious you are. I think that's, again, if these are things that are important to you, we need to get these things done ahead of offer night sometimes to make sure we can go in with as strong an offer as possible. Okay, happy days. We've officially firmed up our deal. Again, you're one step closer to getting those keys. As part of our offer, what we're going to do is negotiate probably 2 buyer's visits, maybe 3 sometimes, depending on the length of closing. And these are fun. The first buyer's visit is like, let's go back and show it off to the family, whether that's in person or through a video call. We do that. That's exciting times. You're walking back into that home. It's not yours yet, but you've got your name on the paper and you know the day that it's going to become yours at this point. The second buyer's visit, we kind of reserve until a little closer to closing. And the reason we do that is this buyer's visit gives us an indication as to whether or not everything we agreed to in the contract is being fulfilled. Were repairs done that we requested, that it was agreed to were going to be done? Is the seller actually moving out? Like, is their stuff all set up nicely? Is there, maybe there's some indication that they're not going to leave and they're trying to back out of the deal. So this is kind of like our red flag visit. And what we can do in a lot of cases, let's say in the instance of the repair or an appliance that we've requested be replaced in the contract, we can reach out to your lawyer and kind of get the lawyers to start talking to arrange a holdback. So we are not going to provide the entire purchase price. We're going to hold back some funds so that we can take care of things that we need to do or ensure that you are going to do them as a seller. So that's what happens with the 2 buyer's visits. So sometime in between the first buyer's visit and the second buyer's visit, and maybe even before the first buyer's visit, we want to start getting our moving arrangements in orders. So depending on the time of year, moving companies can be pretty backed up. Like, let's try to get a moving company booked as far in advance as possible. Let's try to get any, contractors lined up as quickly as possible. If you want to get the place cleaned and painted, it's a little easier to do that when it's vacant. So if we can kind of arrange all these moving arrangements as step 9 with plenty of time for you, that's going to be a fantastic and make the move-in a lot smoother for you. When you're doing your moving arrangements, you'll also want to make sure you're reaching out to utilities companies, so electricity, gas, all these things to make sure accounts are transferred into your name correctly. So step 10, this happens a couple weeks, maybe a week before closing. This is another meeting with your mortgage representative. So this is when you're going to sit down and finalize all the documents for your mortgage. Like, this is exactly when, we know the exact rate that is going on your mortgage. The terms will be all reviewed for you more in depth in this meeting. And just a little more clarity at this point. Very exciting, very scary at the same time. This is the amount of money that's being lended to you and all the terms. So it's a great, exciting, nervous meeting that a rock star mortgage professional can take you through, no problem. So step 11, this happens a couple days before closing, and this is an exciting one. It's kind of your last meeting with your lawyer before closing. So this is when you're going to go through all the final paperwork, kind of all the closing documents. We'll make sure that there's no issues with title in this meeting, all sorts of good things. It's also when you're going to drop off the remainder of your down payment, because it's the lawyer who's going to take that money and transfer it to the seller's lawyer to make sure the money is transferred over. So again, they will kind of be the conduit to bring your down payment as well as the mortgage amount and send it off to the listing agent. So step 12, we come through a lot of hurdles here, people. Like, remember way back at step 1 when you were talking to a mortgage professional and the fun of looking at homes and all that stuff? This is when it really all pays off and you get your keys. So this looks different in today's market than it maybe used to. Usually what happens now is the one key is left in a lockbox on your door, As soon as closing goes through on the day of closing, you will get a call or an email or a text from your lawyer saying, hey, here is the combination to your lockbox. Congratulations, the money has gone through. You are now a homeowner. So let's get over to the house. Your realtor should meet you there. And let's do a walkthrough. Let's make sure that, the house is in broom swept condition like we agreed to. Any other little agreements that we made on closing, all the appliances are in working order. Let's make sure that everything is good. If there's issues, let's document it and send it to your lawyer. But again, let's assume everything's great. This is when we bust out the big bottle of champagne because you are now a homeowner. Congratulations, you've come a long way. Now, if you have any questions about anything I just went through, or you need any clarity, please feel free to reach out. All my information is down below in the description of this video. I'm looking forward to helping you hopefully buy a home in 2022. And if it's not me, I hope this video helps you kind of get prepared and get out there and kind of make home ownership, if that's a goal of yours, a reality in 2022. So again, please subscribe to the channel if you have enjoyed the content. Like this video and share it with a friend who is kind of wondering, hey, how do I even get started on my home buying journey? I feel like there's some good value in here to kind of help them out. And until we talk again, cheers.